Anyway, Invincible, episode 7.
Yes. We're back with another episode.
This show is so peak. Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh. As I was saying, animation renaissance. If you would have told me even 2 years ago when we were starting this that we're going to have weeks where we just have 3 animated shows that are all unique and all so good, I would have laughed at you.
Oh yeah, like considering we started this, presuming we were going to be talking about the MCU forever and probably DC if they got their act together. And then here we are talking about an independent comic that is not even related to either of those, and it's an animated show. It's wild.
It's incredible. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about my favourite part of the entire episode.
Okay.
Which is them at Comic-Con and him getting his comic signed by Seance Dog writer.
Yep.
So that is a homage to a scene from the comic.
Okay.
That they've changed slightly.
Is it they talk about making a comic in the comic?
Yes.
Okay.
So he says, it's crazy how you guys managed to get these out so frequently. He's like, can I tell you a little secret? Sometimes we cut corners and we reuse the same art. And then it shows Mark not moving. And they just change the text bubble. But it's the same drawing.
Yeah.
And like with no background, they get rid of all the background information. And Mark goes, don't you think that's a bit cheap? And then it cuts back to the same shot from before. And he goes, no, not really. He's like, fair enough. It's an homage to that.
Okay.
But they've done it so much better. And of course, in the animation, you always have more freedom. That's the beauty of animation compared to a flat comic book. But the talking through the process and showing them in effect.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I just love that, obviously, like it started off with animation takes a while because obviously a lot of people were like, oh my God, we're having to wait ages for this. And like, as soon as it started with that, I was like, oh, this is about to be great. I'm a sucker for like meta jokes about themselves and like, oh, breaking the fourth wall or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then, when it starts cutting around, it's like, oh yeah, well, the artist in me already knew what they were going to start doing. It's like, oh yeah, we cover our mouths. And then there's just them like, that's really interesting. Just like most obvious. Good. The funny thing is, I guarantee everyone saw that. I was like, oh no, it's going to break the illusion. And then you completely forget about it 10 seconds afterwards. And they probably
move on with the rest of your life. You're so used to it.
You won't notice it unless you're like really focusing, trying to pay attention.
It's so good the way they do it. It's such a respectful nod to it all. I like the nod to the animators and how hard they work.
Yes.
It was really cool, really funny. Great homage to a scene from the comic, but made relevant to the medium you're enjoying it through.
Yeah.
So good. Really,
it was really good.
Funny. Especially when they did the close-up. He's like, and the best bit is sometimes when we do a close-up shot, we can get really detailed. But the problem is, it then ends up looking like a completely different show.
And then they completely did a new style of Mark's face, and I was like, that's really funny. I was actually more expecting them to do like a hyper-realistic face.
Just a picture of Stephen, is it Stephen Yeun?
Yeah. Oh, that would have been hilarious if it was just Stephen Yeun.
That might have been a bit too meta.
Maybe a bit too hard.
But yeah, no, really, really good scene. But anyway, the overall show
broke my heart. Honestly, the end. We're jumping straight to the end, but the end of this episode, we knew it was coming. Yeah. We felt the build up between Mark and, oh my God, I blanked on her name. Amber.
Yeah.
But God,
it almost hurt like an actual breakup.
Yeah, it really did. And it was the breakup of, you both know it's just not working out, but neither of you want it to be over, but you realize it's better if it is.
The crazy thing is, I know what happens in like that kind of respect going forward, and you don't. So it's really funny, like as a semi-outsider perspective, because I knew this had to happen eventually for where stuff goes, but I didn't know how or when or why. But yeah, incredibly interesting. Do you remember? It might have been during the first 4 episodes we were talking about I mentioned a character people were waiting for to show up, and anyone who was excited for that character to show up was being an absolute weirdo.
Yeah, vaguely.
That is Anissa.
Oh, the Viltrumite
Yeah.
lady.
So we're not going to talk about the scene because it shouldn't be a topic of conversation. People are being weirdos about it though, which is making it a topic of conversation. But the people who are waiting for this traumatic scene are so fucking lazy they don't even know when the scene actually takes place in the continuity. So they were all complaining that they've cut it, which wouldn't be a bad thing, really, for today's episode, when it shouldn't
Oh.
happen till potentially season 4.
Oh. Okay.
Which
So
is even more annoying. You've got this traumatic, horrific scene that a lot of the people are like, while it does make sense, the way people are acting about it, it might actually be better to just cut it.
hmm.
And then the people who are being weird about it are like, oh, I can't believe they've not shown the scene. And it's like, well, it's not supposed to happen for like another 2 seasons.
Right. Why do I feel like I have an idea what it might be? But
You're probably not a million miles away.
yeah.
It's fucking horrific. If you are one of these people who are excited for this character for that reason, get a fucking grip of yourself.
I will say her showing up, I was just like, Mark, you got no fucking chance. Like
the way they continue to introduce Viltrumites who are even more powerful.
this is the thing.
Fucking
It's
terrifying.
like he fought the ones on the bug planet who are older, and I was like, oh, he struggled, but he kind of got like his handle on things towards the end of it when he like was fighting for his life. And I'm like, okay, he's probably not gonna win fights, but like he can maybe somewhat hold his own. And then this girl shows up and just absolutely destroys him. I was like, oh, bro, you are. And obviously, like, he's going to hit training now. Like, that's clearly what Cecil's going to be like. We're getting you fucking trained up so you can fight this as best you can. But, damn.
Chaos. Just. I've got so many questions. It's going to be like, it's chaos. Donald has died like a million fucking times.
Donald's been through the shit, man. He's.
When Cecil said it wasn't my decision, I was like, oh, I went, oh fuck, how many times has he died?
Oh, see, I was like, oh, my brain went, they fixed him, and then Donald was himself with all the memories, and he's like, I can't. He was going through shit, and he just couldn't handle it, so he asked them to wipe. And then when he's like, he plays the first video, and it's a different death, and I'm like, oh, I see where this is going.
And then you just see all the files on there. You're just like,
yeah, and it's like, what? How much of this man is actually human anymore, if any?
But it's also at the same time like, yeah, we can look at it the raw ball bones of just the craziness. Oh my god, this guy's died so many times. But it's also like it's a whole story about what does it actually mean to be human. Oh, I just love this. Anyone who says that comic book and superhero media on like true art need to just eat shit, because there is no way you can tell me this Donald arc of finds out you're a robot and then that comes to term with what even am I? Oh my god, it's worse than I thought, this, that, and the other. Complete that arc and then help save someone else going through a similar thing.
Yeah.
And doesn't understand it's all talking about humanity and how sometimes you'll feel like you're less than human or you've lost parts of yourself, but what truly matters is your choices and the decisions you make.
And it's
like,
almost
it's so beautiful.
It's like, obviously we see it as like he's becoming a robot, and he's like, but actually even just simpler than that, it's a man who's gone through severe trauma multiple times understands how someone going through trauma for the first time is feeling, and it's showing like, look, that you can get through it and live with it as hard as it is. I've done it many times and here I am. You just have to figure it out. But yeah, that whole side story going on is so deep.
The bit I found really, really interesting about that as well, though, the amount of times he's willingly gone, yeah, wipe their memories.
Yeah.
But now he's got to the point where it's like, no, not again.
Well, he was obviously was going to,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was this interaction of like, wait, no, me understanding this helps me understand other people and what they like we've helped and what they might be going through.
Exactly that. Originally, he was getting rid of the memories so that he could help people, but now he's realized by keeping them memories, he
Mm,
can help more people potentially.
yeah. Can
It's
we
all so
also
good.
talk about though how Cecil's a dick for keeping Sinclair alive?
Yeah,
And
just
I just
pure
hasn't.
scum.
It's like I was not shocked. Obviously, he's on that screen. I'm like, of course, he took the thing that was dangerous, and he's like, we are going to use it because we are the government. He's done it with multiple things, and he's shown that that's the case. It's just like, really. I'm
It's
sure that's going to be an issue later.
he's an entire Cecil is a character that makes you ask yourself the question: do the ends justify the means?
Mm,
But they don't just do it subtly; they routinely ask you to go, "Are you okay with that?" And it's almost like talking to you, the viewer,
it's
because there are times where Cecil does stuff, and you're
mhm,
like, "I get that." Like with Donald, saving him and keeping it a secret is what we initially thought. We were like, I kind of get that. You don't
mm,
want the person to die, and it would be very traumatic. Maybe that makes sense.
yeah,
But then you see the extent of it and how many times he's done it and how cold and callous he is about it. And the fact that he keeps this horrific human who's done so many horrible things alive. You're like, okay, that doesn't sit right with me. Cecil as a character is there the entire time to be like a moral gauge for
mm,
the viewer to go, okay, where do I actually what's too
yeah.
far?
It's also that thing of because it's superheroes and they're dealing with like world-ending things. It blurs the lines more for you because you're like, damn, that's a really shitty thing. But because he did that, he has just been able to save the world because he had the means to. And it's like, okay, if he hadn't done that, then it'd all be over. So it's kind of okay. It's like you say, it's this moral compass of like what is right and what is wrong, and what can you look past
Well,
for
yeah,
certain
so here's
things.
the thing. If a random person threatens your significant other, you're not instantly going to want to kill them.
Hmm.
You're just going to go, you need to walk the fuck away. You might call the police, whatever.
Yeah.
As Mark, when the Viltrumite comes down and threatens your significant other, even though he doesn't want to be a killer, he knows if I don't kill this person, they will harm her.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds that level because we can't experience that situation, but it does again force us to ask these questions. But every episode in this season so far has had such an underlying feeling associated with it. So like this episode was focused a lot on like trauma, whether that be
Yeah.
how you get through that in a relationship or by yourself, or how do you live after a traumatic event. And we've seen that a lot of times through different episodes of things like loss and feelings of weakness and feeling like you're not yourself. And like constantly, this entire series, despite being marvelous, has actually been quite depressing and bleak in a way,
Yeah, there's
but
been a lot
with
of
like an
downs.
uplift on each one. There's like there
Mm.
is a way out, but it's not necessarily easy and
Yeah.
it's not necessarily nice. Um,
Yeah. I'm trying to
just
think.
so phenomenally entertaining episode.
There was
I'm a little
also
bit worried about
oh.
Rex.
Yeah, see, I was when it started off with the whole like he's gone on a runner, and I'm like, nah, I kind of get it. He's the same place Mark was, where like Mark was just doing getting out there and silently saving people and stuff and trying to prove himself that he needs to get out there. Rex is doing the same. I do think I liked how I was like, oh, it's not going great for him, and then he just cracks out the hand cannon, and he's like, oh, I should have opened with that. As if it's always like that thing where it's like because he's not used to the fact he now has a robotic hand.
It was really similar to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Bucky uses the
Oh
wrench
yeah,
instead of his super arm. He's like, why didn't you just use your arm? And he's like,
I'm right-handed.
forgot. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm right. I forgot about it.
yeah,
Um, and it is that it's like it's a new. Why would Rex instantly think of that? But a little bit of issue getting his powers to work. A little bit of a psycho thematic problem potentially, kind of Spider-Man 2 styles. I love them story arcs. I love arcs where characters like can't access their powers because of a mental block. Really, really good stories.
It'll be interesting to see how his story progresses now, and if he kind of does. I think this is now the redemption arc for him, which worries me for his future down the line. But for now, I'll enjoy him still being alive and being able to take a bullet to the head. Obviously, we got Alan at the end of the episode. I thought that was once again Alan just being hilarious.
Do you know what it is? Once again, the genius of the storytelling here. We've just seen Anissa beat the snot out of Mark.
Yes.
Who we have seen beat the snot out of other Viltrumites.
Yes.
So we're like, okay, she's fucking terrifying.
Yep.
And then you see Alan just tank one to the chin like a champ.
Well,
instantly you're just like, oh, okay.
It's the way that he tanked. Well, he's like on his phone and it's like, oh shit, you've just got caught by the Viltrumite ship. And then she comes out. I love the thing. He was like, maybe they didn't see me. Hopefully they didn't see me. Oh, okay. No, they saw me. And then she smacks him and you're like, oh, we know how bad that is. And he goes flying. And then it cuts to him and he's like, huh, that didn't hurt nearly as much as it did last time. It's like, one, we're like, oh shit. Like that, we know how hard that was. And then it's also that thing of, oh shit, his regen actually worked. He is stronger now. This is confirmation of it. And then he punches back and makes her bleed. And she's like, what the fuck? This is impossible. And then
the beauty of the cycle of it, isn't it? It's like the biggest problem in comic book media is always power scaling. People are arguing about it constantly. This show's doing the heavy lifting for you. The three people that killed Alan got the shit beat out of them by Mark and Nolan.
Yes.
Cool. Now Alan's fit again, and Anissa, who beat the snot out of Mark, was on par with Alan.
I reckon Alan can beat the shit out of her.
Quite possibly. That shows you where we're at. It also showed her how confused and scared she was about Alan, which is fucking exciting because I don't feel like this is Alan's final form. I can't wait to see Alan's final form.
I think Alan fully trained up is his final form because also it's like she 2-foots him in the head and you think, oh, okay, he can take a hit, but he's maybe not that strong. And then she's dragging him away and then he just opens his eye and you're like, oh, okay, this is a bit. He's faking it. I think because we know that's the same shit that's got Nolan on it. He's gonna end up in a cell opposite Nolan, and he's gonna be like,
break out together.
Oh, you're Mark's dad, and he's gonna be like, how the fuck do you know Mark? And he's like, and then there's gonna be this whole break. I think breakout, and they'll go back to Earth or something.
Yeah, and we cannot be far away from the black and blue suit. I don't know if we get it next episode, but
I think we're gonna get
getting the shit beat out of him, nearly on the brink of death. And losing Amber because of it. It's gonna be interesting.
Like we got the heartbreak and then immediately ripped back to reality because his mum and Oliver are being held hostage by multiverse guy.
Time Popper dude, yeah. Which, oh my god, we were worried about Oliver last week. Does Time Popper guy kill Oliver?
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. It's like he's threatening them. And obviously, something's gonna happen that
this season really ends with Mark losing his girlfriend and his baby brother in like a matter of days. I'm genuinely scared.
What if then after all that, and he's already like in mental turmoil, boom, Dad shows back up, and the whole world's like, holy shit, Omni-Man's back. And Mark has to be like, defend his dad, but also, what the fuck are you doing back here? There's going to be like a chaos of emotion.
I would, however, very much like a training montage of Mark with Optimus Prime. I forget the character's actual name. I just hear and think of Optimus Prime.
Or him and Alan together training.
Like, I'm so excited for this show. I know we're going to have to wait a long time for the next season. I can live with it. It sucks, but I will live with it. But I cannot I've got a feeling I might end up caving and
reading
it all,
comics.
just because it's got to the point now where I have enough of the backstory and I know little bit parts in the future that I'm like, do I just read it all so that I can be ready to fully enjoy what's going to happen? I know it's techie out here, ladies and gentlemen.